Hi, welcome back to Examining Life. My name is Amanda. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Thought Experiment Thursday. Today's thought experiment is called the Nightmare Scenario, and it was inspired by the first meditation in Meditations by René Descartes, and by An American Werewolf in London, directed by John Landis. First, I will give a summary, then I will review the philosophical themes, and then I will end with my analysis. I also want to send a big thank you to my patrons and subscribers. And before we continue, if you haven't already, please subscribe. So let's start with the summary. This thought experiment is about a girl named Lucy who was asleep and having a nightmare that a monster was coming through her window and tore her apart. She fought them, but she still felt their teeth and claws attacking her. She woke up, or so she thought, looked around her room, and was relieved that it was just a dream. But then the monsters burst through her window again and attacked her. She screamed and cried. Then she woke up for real this time. She had had a dream within a dream. The first time she thought she woke up, she wasn't actually awake, but dreamed that she was awake. She looked around her room. There were no monsters, and the windows were closed. But how could she know that she was actually awake this time? Okay, so the philosophical themes that are in this thought experiment and that I'm going to discuss are reality, skepticism, and knowledge. So for my analysis, first let's talk about reality. Her dream seemed real, but it wasn't. Even if something seems real, how do we know if it actually is real? Feel free to check out last week's Curiosity with Cookie, where I ask many more questions regarding reality. Even when we think we know reality, how do we know with certainty that what we are experiencing is real? The girl thought that she knew with certainty that the monsters were coming through her window. However, that was not really happening. I'm not going to go into any scientific studies about dreams, and surely there have been many since Descartes' time. Anyways, despite any recent studies on dreaming and the formation of dreams, one can argue that we should still be skeptical of such data if our senses have the potential to deceive us. Which brings us to skepticism. Given that her dream seemed real, but wasn't, she has very good grounds to be skeptical about what she sees in her dreams. Furthermore, since in one of her dreams she thought she had woken up, but simply dreamed that she was woken up, she had reason to be skeptical about if she was actually awake, or simply dreaming that she was awake. How do we ever know that we are actually awake, rather than dreaming that we are awake? Also, Descartes mentions being skeptical about the senses, given that at times they do deceive us. Please feel free to check out yesterday's Wisdom Wednesday, where I analyze a quote regarding this. However, I wouldn't say that dreaming is sensory perception, given that one's eyes are often closed when sleeping. I can see how one can make the case that dreams are perceptions, given that one perceives them in one's mind while asleep, but one's eyes or ears are not actually doing the perceiving as the dream is happening. And if one's eyes and ears are not doing the perceiving, then how can one's sensory perceptions be deceptive? I think there is a miscategorization here, calling something a perception when it actually isn't. But the main question in this thought experiment is, how can one know with certainty that he or she is even actually awake? Which brings us to knowledge. When the girl finally wakes up after her meta dream, how does she know with certainty that she's awake? The last line in the thought experiment is, quote, "She waited, terrified, for time to tell," end quote. I find it fascinating that the concept of time was brought in. This seems to suggest that knowledge can be gained over time. Is there a relation between time and knowledge? Perhaps. For example, more discoveries are made, and some things are proven false or true over time. How can the girl know that she is awake, if not for perceiving her awakeness? However, again, this continues to beg the question about whether perceptions can lead us to knowledge with certainty, Even when waking up from a nightmare, meta or not, if one is actually awake, that seems to be reason enough to know that one is awake. Except given that the girl dreamt that she was awake. How can the girl know with certainty that she was awake when there was a potential that she actually wasn't? Thank you so much for watching this week's Thought Experiment Thursday! What do you think of this thought experiment? Have you ever had a dream within a dream? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed today's video, please subscribe, comment, like, and share. Stay tuned every Thursday. Thank you. Bye.